Now we're going to start chapter 4, which is talking about supply and demand, but in the labor and financial markets. So we're going to flip it around. We're not talking about the product market where you are going to the store to buy something. We're talking about the firm going to the market to actually buy labor. Okay, so in this case, the firm are actually going to be demanding labor, and you, the household, are going to be supplying labor. All right, so it's kind of like a flip around there. So the law of demand still applies in the labor market. Thinking about it from a business side, if wages were higher, you would have to hire less people. All right, it's just too expensive, so you can't have as many people as you would like. But if wages were lower, you can hire more people. All right, so again, same deal as before, where we said higher prices, lower quantity demanded. Same deal with wages. If wages are higher, the quantity demanded for the labor is lower. Right? Now the law of supply says the same thing as before. Higher prices, higher quantity. From you as a household standpoint, if you were going to be paid more money, you would probably be willing to work more hours, or maybe you go from sitting on the couch to actually working because of the higher wages. So because wages are higher, we actually see an increase in the quantity supplied. So the law of supply still works here as well. And so what we end up with is an equilibrium wage, where employers can find workers and workers can find jobs. How this works, and you can see it, like some businesses have signs on the outside of their business saying, hey, starting wage $12.50, right? Now, if you accept that, then that is the equilibrium. If you think that's too low, you say, no, I'll wait it out, right? And then they're going to have to raise wage in order to convince you to work there, right? Again, the market always works towards an equilibrium. Now, let's talk about the things that will change the demand for labor. Number one is pretty obvious, demand for the output. If we have more demand for the product, then what happens is because demand is higher, we have higher prices, and we need to sell more. And how can you sell more? You need to make more. And how can you make more? You need more labor. So because the demand for the product changes, this changes the demand for labor. This also works the other ways in dying industries. So consumers no longer demand a certain product. Because the demand is lower for the product, then no one buys it. We don't need the labor making it anymore, so we demand less labor because of the change in the demand for the output. All right. Another thing that can change the demand for labor is your education and training. So if you have more productive workers, they're more valuable. They are making you more product. So if you have a more educated workforce, you want to hire as many of those people as you can. So that's why a lot of companies will do training for their employees, because they want to keep them valuable and demand more of them. Okay. That's also why you're going to school, right? By going to school, you become more educated, you become more in demand. Another thing that could change the labor demand could be technology. Now, technology could be a complement or a substitute for labor, all right? I'm going to use an example of Charlie Bucket's dad in Charlie and Chocolate Factory. Now, technology could replace low-skill labor where it's a substitute for labor. So here, his dad was putting the toothpaste caps on the toothpaste tubes. Very low skill position. Anybody can do that. So that's what he was doing. They created a machine that can do his job. So because of technology, we substituted the technology and labor. All right. Now, at the end of the movie, he actually gets a job repairing the machine. So technology could create demand for high skill positions. So therefore, technology could also be a complement for labor as well. All right. So in this one, because we have the machine, we also need someone there to repair it. So because the two things that got to go together, technology is actually creating a complement for labor. Okay. Now, what's interesting about the technology is how it affects the market wages for both these positions. So here I wanted to show you over time what has happened. So because technology replaces low skill labor, in the sense that the demand for low skill labor is lower, the demand is lower, the wages are lower. Okay, that's how that works. If the demand for labor is lower, wages go down. And so right here for the low skill positions, you can see because of the decrease in demand, we see lower wages. But because of technology creating the demand for high skill labor, their wages are now going up. So we'll shift there, okay, to the new higher wage. And what's happening here is there is a wage disparity. Low skilled labor is getting paid less, high skilled labor is getting paid more. We're causing a bigger gap than what we had before. And the data proves this, okay? So according to the National Center for Education Statistics, a college graduate earned around 30% more than a high school graduate in 1980, but in 2019, a college graduate earned around 59% more. So there is that wage disparity that we're talking about, and because of technology, it is getting wider. Right? Some other things we can talk about in terms of labor demand are the number of firms. Okay, the more firms you have, the more output you're creating, so the more labor you need. The more coffee shops that pop up in your area, there are more barista positions available. Okay. Government regulations, taxes or subsidies can play a big factor in how much labor we hire. Taxes raise the cost of hiring. If it's more difficult to hire people, we're going to hire less. If we give subsidies, though, where basically a government says, hey, if you hire 10 workers by the end of the year, we'll give you an extra subsidy on as a incentive. So this decreases the cost of hiring and incentivizes more hiring, so higher demand. Okay. The last thing is the price and availability of inputs. This is very similar to the technology, but basically what we're having here is machines and labor. If the price of a machine is cheaper, a firm is likely going to buy the machine and replace the labor, so decrease demand, and it's because of the change in the price of the substitute. If machines were more expensive, then we don't need the machine, it's too expensive, so we just have the labor. The same thing goes with the price of inputs like ingredients. If the price of ingredients decreases, you're going to buy more ingredients. Because you have more ingredients, you need to make more stuff. And how do you make more stuff? More labor. Okay? So these are the different factors that change your labor demand. All right? And because demand goes up, in general, we will see wages are higher. So for a healthy economy, when people are buying more things, creating more demand, this creates more demand for labor, and this decreases unemployment. So this is why government really likes to focus on economic growth. They want people to go out there and get the economy rolling because that creates more jobs. Next, we'll talk about the changes to labor supply. All right.